Young people in China nowadays just don't want to get married or have kids. Why is that? In this video, a guy says,
"Why should I get married? It'll just make me poor. Like most people born in the 90s, I don't want to get married, have kids, buy a house or a car. I just want to live a life free from all these burdens."
This guy being interviewed on the street says,
"You just asked me why I don't have a girlfriend, right? Why should I get married and have kids? It'll just leave me broke, won't it? Don't you know that many people born in the 90s are living without these four major burdens? No wife, no kids, no house, and no car. So why shouldn't I enjoy spending my savings slowly?"
The interviewer suggests, if you find a girlfriend, you can make money together.
If your lifestyle costs $10,000 to $20,000 a month, why would you go for someone who earns only $4,000 to $5,000 a month in a factory? It's just going to be miserable for both. So, you've got to be compatible right from the start. Get it? If you're not, it's just going to be a tragedy.
Here in this video, a student is asked, do you have a girlfriend?
No.
Do you want one?
No.
Why not?
Because it's a waste of time and energy.
But wouldn't it be nice to have a girlfriend to have fun with?
No, it wouldn't be. If I don't have kids, I don't have vulnerabilities, and my life will be at least 80 to 90% less stressful. Why bring an innocent life into this world without reason? Why should I raise a child with my hard-earned $3 million just to send them into a life of 996 work culture, become a slave to housing loans, and face unemployment at 35? In the end, only the state, banks, and capital will thank me, not my child. As they say, children have their own fortunes, but if I don't have any, I enjoy my own fortunes. It's heartbreaking for parents, but not having kids saves me the heartache. At least I can live a more authentic life without being a parent.
A young man in his 20s expressed his reasons for not wanting children during an interview. His words are full of irony, but with much insight. Viewers might wonder why not having children is likened to a vulnerability. Is raising a child really as costly as 3 million yuan? The young man's statement reflects controversial phenomena that have sparked debates in China, becoming the final straw for young people's reluctance to have children. Let's look at some data to understand why the Chinese Communist Party authorities are so concerned about China's current population issues. Chinese media Yitai analyzed the China Population and Employment Statistics Yearbook 2023 in January this year and found that in 2022, the unmarried rate for urban Chinese aged 25 to 29 was 57%, and 20% for those aged 30 to 34. The unmarried rate for 30 years old in cities reached 31%. In town populations, the unmarried rate for the 25 to 29 age group was 45%. Towns approved for establishment from the main part of country-level populations. In rural areas, the unmarried rate for the 25-29 age group was 47.4% and 19.3% for those aged 30 to 34. In rural areas, the unmarried rate for all age groups over 50 was over 2%. The report indicates that the unmarried rate for urban population in the 25 to 29 and 30 to 34 age groups is higher than in towns and rural areas. Rural population have a higher unmarried rate than towns in the 25 to 29 age group, but much lower than in cities. However, in the 35 and older age groups, the rural unmarried rate is higher than in the cities and towns, related to the gender imbalance among marriage-age individuals in rural areas. Official experts endorsed by the CCP explains that many urban youths have longer education periods and delayed employment, leading to later marriages. Additionally, young people's independence, high urban living costs, and other factors significantly impact marriage rates and ages. Population expert and president of the Guangdong Sociological Association, Dong Yuzhen, previously analyzed that one reason for the high unmarried rate in rural areas is that many rural women who go to work in cities don't return home, but become permanent urban residents, with some marrying and having children elsewhere. It's widely recognized that these so-called experts primarily served to shield and deflect criticism from the CCP. High urban living costs aren't a recent phenomenon, but have always been high. It's a fact that urban youth marry later than their rural counterparts, but this still doesn't explain the alarmingly high unmarried rates. According to the 2022 China Marriage and Family Report, China's marriage rate rose from 6.7% in 2000 to 9.9% in 2013, then declined yearly, dropping to 5.8% in 2020. First marriages peaked at 23.9 million in 2013 and have been declining ever since, falling to 12.3 million in 2020, a 48.5% drop from 2013. In 2013, mainland China had 13.5 million marriage registrations, which fell to 7.6 million in 2021, declining for 8 consecutive years. Ben Steele, Director of International Economics at the Council on Foreign Relations, believes that high youth unemployment rates prevent young people from marrying and starting families due to affordability issues. From the data, it is evident that in recent years, whether it's first marriages, marriage registrations, or marriage rates, all are on a continuous decline, getting worse each year. Common sense tells us that marriage rates are directly linked to birth rates. With this backdrop, one can only imagine how drastically newborn numbers have plummeted. On January 17, 2024, China's National Bureau of Statistics released the latest population data for 2023. The national population was 1.497 billion, a decrease of 2.08 million from the end of 2022. The total births were 9.02 million, with a birth rate of 6.39 per mil. Death totaled 11.1 million, with a mortality rate of 7.87 per mil, leading to a natural population growth rate of negative 1.48 per mil. Last year, the National Bureau of Statistics also released population data reporting that China's 2022 birth population was 9.56 million, with 10.4 million deaths, resulting in a population decrease of 850,000 from the end of the previous year. A total population decrease of 850,000 in 2022 marked the first negative growth since 1961, and the decrease of 2.08 million in 2023 is the second consecutive year of negative growth. After the CCP released the data, an old man was asked about the decline in the birth rate in 2023. He humorously said,
I don't know about others, but I know in the countryside, when pigs don't give birth, the worried ones aren't the pigs, but the pig farmers and the feed sellers.
Long-term observers of China's situation know that CCP tends to embellish official reports and data, including unemployment rates, population statistics, GDP, and other economic figures, casting doubt on their reliability. With the possibility of inflated numbers, the continuous decline in population data signals a crisis alarming enough for the government. The trend suggests a steep decline in China's future population. Independent commentator Cai Shenqun posted on social media platform X, "The falsification of population figures didn't start recently, but has been a practice since the establishment of the new regime in 1949. As noted above, the National Bureau of Statistics reported 9.02 million births and 11.1 million deaths in 2023, a decrease of 2.08 million from the previous year. These figures significantly differ from population scholars' analysis, suggesting inflated birth figures and understated death figures. Data from a Zhejiang location accidentally revealed crementations, indicating China's actual population might have decreased by 8 million or even 10 million in 2023. Distorted demographic data inevitably leads to economic decision-making errors and chaos. However, Chinese media Times Finance cited Zhai Zhenwen, president of the Chinese Demographic Society and a professor at Renmin University of China, saying that 2024, being the year of the dragon, may see an increase in birth rates, as the Chinese have a strong preference for zodiac signs, and a previous dragon year in 2012 experienced a minor birth peak. Regarding Zhai Zhenwen's statement, many netizens expressed skepticism. On the Chinese social media platform Weibo, responses and comments reached hundreds of thousands. One user reminded others to be rational, noting that having a child in the year of the dragon doesn't mean giving birth to a dragon. Another said, even if the child is born in the year of the dragon, they'll still end up working hard like everyone else. Clearly, many don't anticipate a miraculous increase in birth rates in the dragon year of 2024. Meanwhile, this official expert, Zhai Zhenwen, has been found by netizens to frequently make baseless claims. A 2020 report by Sina Finance mentioned that Zhai Zhenwen has often misjudged demographic situations, making exaggerated and inaccurate predictions about birth rates. The report highlighted his miscalculations, pointing to his 2014 paper Immediate Consequences of a Full Two-Child Policy, which predicted annual births of 35.4 million, 49.95 million, 40.25 million, and 35.4 million in the 4 year following an immediate lift of the two-child policy. At the time, he was trying to discourage the relaxation of the one-child policy. However, the actual figures from 2016 to 2019, post-implementation of the two-child policy, were only 17.9 million, 17.2 million, 15.2 million, and 14.7 million, with the peak far below half of Zhai's predicted peak. Cai Zhenwen states, whether predicting birth numbers or the effects of the two-child policy, Zhai Zhenwen's forecasts are pure nonsense. In fact, in 2016, China's net population increase was only 8 million, less than 1/6 of this demographer's prediction. Cai Zhenwen points out the shamelessness of Zhai Zhenwen's predictions. In 2020, he did a 180-degree turnaround and predicted that lifting birth restrictions would only add about 300,000 people. Cai said that such experts seem to offer nothing of value beyond optimism. Despite the CCP's continuous pro-birth incentives in recent years, newborn numbers keep dropping, indicating an unprecedented low in public desire to have children. Even during the 3-year famine, the birth numbers remained above 10 million. Some experts speculate that by 2100, China's population would plummet to around 500 million, a drastic reduction of 900 million over 76 years. The question returns to why young Chinese are reluctant to have children. The primary issue is economic. Simply put, people can't afford it. In China, children are jokingly called four-legged gold-eating beast. This refers to the high cost of raising a child, estimated at about 3 million yuan for urban children from birth to 18 years, as mentioned in the video opening. This may sound excessive, but many netizens have crunched the numbers. The first 3 years involve prenatal checkup, delivery cost, and postpartum recovery, not a small expense. Prenatal care cost around 3,000 yuan, natural birth 4,000, and cesarean around 10,000. Private hospital cost in Beijing and Shanghai can reach about 50,000 yuan for delivery and checkup packages. Children's monthly formula and food expenses average about 1,500 yuan, totaling nearly 20,000 yuan a year. Clothes, toys, diapers, and yearly education courses for 3 years amount to about 50,000 yuan. Without including nanny costs, the total is estimated at 120,000 to 250,000 yuan. For ages 3 to 6, public kindergarten costs about 1,000 yuan per month, while private kindergartens range from 1,500 to 6,000 yuan for more depending on the city. Hobby classes and travel expenses bring the total for this period to about 100,000 to 300,000 yuan. From ages 7 to 15, 9 years of basic education costs 20,000 to 30,000 yuan, with additional tutoring at 50,000 to 60,000 yuan. Including electronics, food, clothing, and entertainment, the total is about 100,000 to 200,000 yuan. Ages 15 to 18 involve 50,000 to 80,000 yuan for basic expenses, including public school fees of about 1,000 yuan per year, 3,000 yuan for 3 years, and up to 9,000 yuan per year for private schools, 27,000 yuan for 3 years. Textbooks, miscellaneous fees, uniforms, boarding, food, clothing, electronics, entertainment, and college entrance exam tutoring bring the total to 50,000 to 80,000 yuan. For university ages 18 to 22, public school fees are about 5,000 yuan per year, with a monthly living cost of 3,000 yuan in the first tier cities. Including accommodation and social expenses, the total for 4 years is about 150,000 yuan. Considering overseas studies, the cost for a 4-year undergraduate degree in the US ranges from 540,000 to 1.3 million yuan. In Canada, 440,000 to 780,000 yuan. In Japan, 600,000 to 800,000 yuan. Postgraduate studies cost about the same as undergraduate years, totaling 40,000 to 60,000 yuan, with some fields reaching 500,000 yuan. The total cost from ages 0 to 22 is about 550,000 to 2.5 million yuan, not including health expenses and settling costs. Including a house for marriage, at least another 500,000 yuan is needed. With China's economy struggling to recover post-pandemic, foreign companies are accelerating their exit, and the country's once reliant export trade is continuously declining. With high unemployment rates among the youth and libraries filled with jobless people, how can young people afford to raise a 1 million yuan child? Already burdened with supporting their aging parents living day by day, where is the hope for having children? In fact, the cost of raising children is just one reason for the reluctance to marry. Let's also look at the exorbitant housing prices and extravagant betrothal gifts. In the past decade, China's economic boom was partly driven by skyrocketing real estate prices. The housing prices in first-tier cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen still match those in international cities like Tokyo, Paris, New York, and Melbourne. During the real estate boom from 2010 to 2020, these cities' prices even surpassed those in major global cities, with ordinary Chinese families' wealth tied up in their homes. Astronomical housing prices in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, often millions of yuan per unit, have curbed the marriage desires of young workers in these cities. Even in second and third tier cities, finding a house for several 100,000 yuan is difficult, with parents emptying their wallets to afford one. Astronomical housing prices in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, often millions of yuan per unit, have curbed the marriage desires of young workers in these cities. Even in second and third tier cities, finding a house for several 100,000 yuan is difficult, with parents emptying their wallets to afford one. Another man in the video says,
Let me explain why young people shouldn't buy houses. The main reason not to buy a house is to avoid emptying all your pockets for it. Many people's biggest disappointment in life is buying a house. Owning a house is probably the smallest goal anyone can have these days. How many would dare to empty their savings or even go into debt for it 20 years ago? So, young people really shouldn't buy houses.
The video's narrator believes that China's real estate has crushed the hopes of the new generation.
The real estate sector has particularly destroyed the lives of people born in the 80s and 90s. They're the sixth wallet generation, burdened with mortgages and the responsibility of supporting 8 family members. Then they enter a long, dark life that's hard to change. You're crushed by mortgages, can't eat or play what you want, and all your impulses are suppressed. Guys, don't let mortgages enslave you. What's more important, a house or a good life? Real estate has already hijacked China's economy. Don't let it hijack your happiness for the rest of your life.
Exorbitantly priced houses are dubbed the most effective birth control. Unaffordable housing leads to fewer marriages and consequently fewer children. With an increasing number of young people adopting a lying flat attitude, houses have become hot potatoes. Those who can't afford them fear ending up with unfinished properties, while speculators who can afford them are already facing losses and are wary of buying more. The lack of consumption and vitality, coupled with a collective lying flat attitude, has created a vicious cycle. Another young blogger talks about his dad offering to sponsor his house by paying the down payment and then repaying the loan himself. He immediately refuses.
Let me show you. Say a 1.5 million house, my dad pays a 500,000 down payment, and I take a 1 million loan. Over 30 years, I'll pay 930,000 in interest, almost 2 million in total. Look at this. Just the first year's interest is 5,100, more than the principal of less than 3,000. It'll take 14 years before the interest is finally less than the principal. Oh my God, it takes 14 years for the interest to match the principal. So, guys and family, taking a loan to buy a house isn't really buying a house. You know what it is.
Excessive betrothal gifts are another deterrent to marriage for young people. In rural China, families demand hundreds of thousands or even millions for their daughter's hand in marriage. As we've introduced in previous videos, those of you who are interested can click here. With the current economic downturn, life is tough in cities and even tougher in rural areas. Is it more important to pay hefty betrothal gifts or to survive? When the economy was better, expensive gifts seemed manageable with hard work. But now, when even daily meals are uncertain, how important is getting married? If one's own survival is uncertain, why worry about the next generation? China's population crisis has reached a critical point. The 9.02 million birth recorded in 2023 is the lowest in 261 years since the 27th year of the Qing era of the Qing dynasty, when China's population was only 200 million. Compared to India, with a similar total population, China's birth figure is only 1/3 of India's. Chinese-American demographer Yi Fuxian, in an article of Voice of America, analyzed that China's official birth figures were significantly overstated before 2020 and are still somewhat overestimated. For instance, using spot sampling, the official figure of 10.6 million births in 2021 is more likely less than 10 million. The announced figure of 9.02 million births in 2023 is also likely inflated. Yi Fuxian believes that China's 2023 birth figure, only 1/3 of that in 1990, indicates a rapid decline in the manufacturing sector. The proportion of children correlates positively with the consumer rate. The low birth figure of 2023, far below expectations, means continued sluggish domestic demand, forcing the economy and employment to rely more on experts. However, the strained foreign diplomatic relations with many trading countries doesn't help on this front. The unexpectedly rapid aging and labor force shrinkage imply that China's economic downturn is not cyclical, but structural and irreversible. Yi Fuxian argues that China's fertility rate has been below the replacement level since 1991, warranting an end to the one-child policy. In developed countries, replacement level fertility can be taken as requiring an average of 2.1 children per woman. Since 2000, Yi has opposed the one-child policy and predicted in his 2007 book, Empty Nest: The Coming Crisis for China, that if the one-child policy continued, China's total population would start declining in 2017. However, his suggestions were ignored and his book was banned in China. He notes that later China implemented the three-child policy in 2021 because a State Council Development Research Center task force led by Li Jianwei argued it was sufficient for China's long-term balanced population development, yet the 2023 fertility rate of 1.0 was far below the replacement level of 2.1. Yi Fuxian concludes that the Chinese authorities believe the world is undergoing a major change unseen in a century, marked by China's rise. However, in reality, the world is witnessing a major change unseen in millennia, marked by the rapid decline of China's population and civilization. On the eve of the CCP's official population data release, a heated discussion emerged on mainland social platforms. Would you have a baby for a 1,000,000 yuan subsidy? Over 2,000 people responded, with one amusing analogy to the housing market. People would have babies, but not current ones, rather future babies, with the government needing to pay a 200,000 yuan down payment. Moreover, there's no guarantee of actually receiving the baby, akin to unfinished buildings. This proves that the public is truly not easily fooled.